Hello, my name's Connie Ann Brady. I'm a mother of two beautiful children, ages 12 and 18, a daughter and a son. I was born and raised in California. I raised myself due to a drunken, abusive mother. I was afraid, quiet, and depressed. At school, kids would bully me and hit me in my stomach, and I wouldn't flinch. I would go to school and ride the bus home, afraid, and being sick in my stomach was because knowing what I was going home to and what was waiting there for me. I wouldn't really talk about things happening at home at school because I didn't want people feeling bad for me. I would lie to the school when I did go to the school. The school had eventually had enough, and they called social services on my mother. And I went through the foster homes and the group homes, which they weren't any better. They were actually just the same or worse. And eventually I went on my own because I was in and out of the system so much that the system found me to be emancipated. Later on, I found out I had a crooked spine due to the result of the abusiveness that my mom did to me with the baseball bat and the toll I took from the baseball bat being hit across my back all the time. I would take a red teddy bear and cuddle and hold it just to soften the blows. I did not finish school because I did not think I could finish school because I was emancipated, and I didn't think I could pay for it. I eventually traveled with the carnival, started to smoke weed and drink for some time while I was traveling with the carnival. It wasn't a lifestyle I had chose to live. It was just a lifestyle I had grew accustomed to know. I lived on the streets of Riverside, California while I wasn't traveling with the carnival. During this time I met a guy that lived in California and that went back and forth from South Dakota to California because of his mom and his brother and stuff. So I met him and we traveled together, and I went back and forth with him to California and to South Dakota. Eventually I ended up staying there, as things didn't work out because he had me raped by his brother and used and abused me like for stealing stuff and just for money and just whatnot. I eventually got rid of him because I was so depressed and sad over him. I tried killing myself, and I was like, I'm not having this. So I ended up living in South Dakota for several years. Yet still, I lived a lifestyle of drinking and smoking weed and trying different drugs as I was in California. Yet I still did not like this lifestyle, but it was all I know. I was unloved, mistreated, and alone. Yet I met another man, but little did I know he had problems. He was on all kind of medicine and had schizophrenic. He ended up getting very abusive and constantly had to drink. When he was sober, he was completely awesome. He was lovey, he was lovable, and he was good to me. But when he drank, he was very abusive, and he constantly was in that habit of drinking and made me buy him alcohol, or he had to have alcohol. And every time he drank, he abused me. He would kick me out of my own homes, my apartments, or motels that we were staying in, because I worked and tried to stay off the streets because I didn't like being on the streets. I liked doing better things for myself. So eventually, after being choked out by several times by him and being abused and just being left for dead by the creek, when I would pass out drunk because I had nowhere to go. I put him in jail and had somebody there at my house helping me when he come home. Had all his stuff outside, and I bettered myself. During this time, I had met a friend through my ex, and I was helping her. Well, she wanted me to help her, and I told her I couldn't help her because I had my own abusive relationship I was trying to deal with. I told her she had to put a restraining order on her husband because he was abusive and she couldn't wash her clothes. He would always buy her new clothes. Well, next thing I know, he come there, and I was outside walking her to the truck, and he was like, well, why are you trying to steal my woman? And I told him I wasn't. She come to me for help, and I denied her. He ran me over with his big dually truck and left me for dead. I was in the hospital for over a year with a collapsed lung. I was sick of being in the hospital, but I wanted to die. I wanted to get up and I wanted to leave. The doctors told me if I did, I wouldn't last but a couple of days or a day. So I finally was like, ugh, whatever then. So I stayed and I toughed it out. And I'm glad I did because my life was more valuable than dying. I left the hospital and began to heal. As time went by, like I said, I kicked that guy to the curb, and I was off the street. I had my own place. I was doing good for myself, and yet I met another man. He seemed really good. He seemed really decent and loving, and just, finally I had found somebody that was truly going to love me. But yet, this was not the case. I went through 13 years of just depression. He cheated on me. He didn't love me. He didn't want nothing to do with me. He called me ugly and stupid when I was pregnant. Just different things. He tore me down. He mentally, physically, and emotionally tore me down. He got... So for the more part, I kept myself down because I believed what he was saying for the more part. Eventually, I had enough. I started going to church, and I had support from a stepmother of mine that I had met. Her name was Judy. She was awesome, and I loved her. So for a year or two, I just lived there with my son. It had nothing to do with my ex. I eventually moved out, moved in with a friend of mine that I had met while I was with my ex. Our kids grew up together. They was all the same age. The boys were the same age. Because my friend, he was like, well, why are you going to let him push you when you're pregnant and treat you like that? And he didn't like it. So he helped me get out of that situation. He ended up leaving his wife because of the same situations of mental, physical, and emotional abuse. We supported each other. He supported me. He was there for me when I was pregnant with my daughter Felicity, as my ex was not. He offered me up for sex to him, who told him to come to my house, but Jeff would not have anything to do with that. We were just friends. Eventually, I started having feelings for him, and I cared about him. And after he helped me, he moved me out of that situation. After a year or so, we ended up moving to Ohio, where we ended up getting married. As it was rough for a while, it took me a year or two going through a lot of rough emotional patches with myself and being depressed and breaking the bonds that my ex had on me. He had control on me, and something kept control of me with him. and he kept that control. Even though I had grew stronger and broke them bonds, there were still core beings still attached that was, yet to be broken. As time went on, things got easier, and I learned how to love myself and accept myself, that it was not my fault, and that God would not let me go through things unless He knew I was strong enough to go through things that He presented to me. I really believe everything that I went through made me a stronger and better person. It made me the person that I am today. I kept going. I continued going to church, and I had a lot of support. Eventually, I grew strong enough, and I was unstoppable. I was a different person. I didn't blame myself anymore. And during this time when I lived in Ohio, this is when I started my online career. As I always had a desire and compassion to love on people and to help people, I'm a giver, not a taker. I'd rather much do for people than I would for myself, as I always have done. I at first had started off lost and confused and didn't know anything about online marketing, but I quickly learned and advanced and became successful. I had a deep compassion for people and wanted to see them succeed. Even though my journey was long and slow, connecting with people here and there, all along knowing I was still doing everything wrong. But my determination never faded, and I never gave up. At times, I felt defeated, even though I was becoming more powerful and growing and learning each and every day. At this time, I partnered up with a woman, and I grew to become the better me, and became more successful in my business, and became good at what I was doing. With the blueprint put in front of me, I felt successful and was making a 6-figure income. I was happy, but overworked, and my family felt very neglected. So I took a break and come back after a while and took over again. But only this time my partner started playing dirty ball, so I disconnected with her. So I started my own company and started doing it in my own way, doing the same thing. This went on for a while until my Facebook got shut down. I felt angry and mad and very upset that all my time, work, and effort that was put into my business was just all taken away from me. I worked so hard for all that I'd done, and it was all taken away from me. I had accomplished my goal of helping people and giving my family the time they deserved, and didn't have to worry about money to have it all taken away. So about 2 years later, I come back aboard again after a long fight to be able to come back, to be able to do so. I was more determined than ever to be more successful and to win big, to effortlessly help 1,000 more people become successful. As I reconnected with a handful of people only, leaving the toxic people that was in my life, in my business before, behind. One being my partner from before. She come to me one day and says, "I love your drive and your determination, and I've been watching you. You have never given up. You always fought for what was yours, and you never gave up." So, as this was stated, we continued to work together, as she wanted to help me and mentor me and show me the right way to become successful and to help people. So I kept pushing and striving for the best, and that's what I did. My epiphany was I I can't go along this journey alone. I had to have help. I needed help and someone to help guide me. And to help show me the way. And to help show me what I was doing wrong. As I had done everything on my own, it was time to leave room for advice and criticism. As time went on, I grew stronger and better in who I was and who I was becoming. As a leader and as a marketer, I was leading by example with help from a few mentors, helping me along the way. I was growing and becoming a more compassionate, loving person for me and the people who was following me and the people that I was inspiring along my journey. Today I feel as if I'm unstoppable and I can defeat anything that is put in front of me. My goal today is to keep growing in my mindset and help 1,000 more people feel valuable and unstoppable in their mindset. I want them to feel just as valuable and as worthy as I do.